Can it happen the other way? Can there be songs which you absolutely struggle with, there's no inspiration there, it doesn't seem to be coming, and then at the end of the day you've got a brilliant song?
Yeah, sometimes they can. Some songs, like the one I love, proved to be a really difficult song to record. I was hell-bent on making it incredibly slow, and I was wrong. It should have been faster. It sounded much better fast. I wanted to make it more miserable or something. It just seemed, I want achingly slow and more like sort of Mazzy Star or something. I had some kind of picture of it in my mind, but it just was not a true thing. It never came together. So yeah, I find that occasionally, you know, sometimes you just know when it's going on. You know, inspiration, there's no mistake. Sometimes that's what you really want. That's the nectar, but it's just not there all the time.
What is this place? So this must be a big inspiration, having this place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a privilege. It really is. It's fantastic. It's an amazing room. Loads of history of people who've recorded here. But it sounds so sweet, and to be able to have all the instruments out all the time, and you know, the musicians, brilliant musicians to work with, engineers, it's what you dream of. And if I can't come up with the goods in here, then, you know, forget it. What a waste of time.
How does it change writing songs? Because before, I'd imagine, you know, you'd be writing songs maybe on a guitar or a piano,
yeah.
and then now you're thinking about the sound and the studio and the possibilities of the studio. So how does that change the actual initial process of?
It can do, yeah. I mean, so often now I'll react to a sound. It's like if you buy a new instrument, if I went out and bought a vibraphone, which is something I would love to have, or a Celeste, some sort of rare and wonderful instrument, there's no doubt that as soon as I got it, I'd write a song because of it. Because the same old chords and the same old notes just ring out differently, and the overtones of a different instrument enchant you, and suddenly there's an idea and there's a lyric and the whole thing. So you can't go out and buy an instrument every time you need to write a song. But likewise, when you're in the studio and, you know, Yestin, who's the engineer, will be messing with the sound like a backwards delay or something on the piano, which is all a bit distorted, and there's a whatever. You hear that sound, you think, Christ, that sounds brilliant. So just leave that on and let me just go out again and see what I can do just using that sound. Because we have all this at our disposal, you can do that. And then, oh yeah, I like this. And then the drummer starts to play a beat, and suddenly something else is born out of a different song and a different idea. So that happens a lot. And obviously, the more you're in the studio and the deeper you get into listening and thinking in the studio way, the more you're prone to these things and happening. Definitely now, songwriting's quite different. I really like to have other people around. My appreciation of what the bass and the drums can give is a lot greater than it once was. It was like, just please play along with me. It was basically my sort of, you know, Luddite philosophy to sort of how to make music. When I started, was now it's like I understand how vital getting the rhythm section absolutely right is. I've got two amazing musicians at the moment, Rob Malone on bass and Keith Pryor on drums. And so working with them is fantastic. Ideas will come up because, you know, an idea that might sound puny, like if I start to do this on the piano. Well, it doesn't sound like much, so it sounds like an accompaniment to something. But if you've got a bass player and a guitarist and a drummer, and suddenly the drums are slamming down sort of DJ Shadow type beat underneath it, and the bass player picks a strange angle, but he's taking bass notes that change the chord underneath what you're doing, then you're making a piece of music using three ingredients, whereas that you can't create by using one, unless you've got a Brian Wilson-like sort of imagination, like, oh, I can just chord this out on the piano, but I'm hearing symphonies of ideas.
So that gets away from the I guess the cliched idea of the songwriter sitting in his or her bedroom, knocking out a song and then saying, okay, band, this is how we're going to do it. What you're saying is that the band themselves can be the initial inspiration.
Well, it's a catalyst, and I'll suddenly hear something in 3D, if you like, with the whole, right, yeah, this could really go somewhere, just hang on a sec, and I'll take up my pen and I'll try and write something down so we've got something to work on. I'll sketch some sort of lyric in and we'll work on it, and if I'm lucky, the whole song will come in that initial session with some of these songs. So you're working very fresh. Recording always sounds better. You know, Neil Young, a lot of those tracks, there's wonderful tracks like Old Man and all these things, I think they did so many takes of them. They really worked hard on a lot of those Neil Young records, and yet they sound effortless. You know, and the Beatles too, you know, all their recordings sound so joyful and simple. It's like, hey, it must be so easy being the Beatles, but they really worked at it. They managed to stay fresh. But there's a playful, if you lose the sort of playful, it's fearlessness that you're after as a musician. If you're starting to think, Christ, I better stay in time, you know, it's like,
you can hear it.
What's that? It's like,